Hey yo, what up everybody out there? It's the NFL Exporter, the Firehouse, Blaze1Radio. Let's go. Welcome back everybody to another edition of the Firehouse on Blaze1Radio. I'm your host, NFLExporter. We had a great debut show last week. Yo, in case you missed it, on this show we talk about NFL and fantasy football. We're getting ready for another great season of football, and last week we talked fantasy football. We did our rankings for quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. This week we're going to round it out with the tight ends, the defense, special teams, and the kickers. And then to round up the last 2 weeks of the entire preseason, we're going to break down the AFC and the NFC conference. So we're going to definitely cross and touch all our bases before we head into the regular season. All right, let's jump into the tight ends. Number one tight end on the board, you already know, Jimmy Graham, New Orleans Saints, 16 TD catches last year. He got his contract. You know him and Drew Brees hook up big time. Jimmy Graham is definitely the best tight end coming into this season. Expect him to go real early in drafts. Next in line, Rob Gronkowski. If Gronkowski is healthy, he's still right up there with Jimmy Graham. You know, the injuries have kind of limited his production the last couple years, but if he can stay healthy, you know, if Gronk is healthy, he's definitely Tom Brady's top target, and he'll put up the big stats. Next, Julius Thomas, Denver Broncos. Last year, his first year starting, 12 touchdown catches. He's with Peyton Manning. The ceiling is high for this kid. He's certainly a tight end that you want to get on your team. Next, Vernon Davis of the San Francisco 49ers. 13 TD grabs last year. The 49ers offense is looking real explosive. Expect another big year out of Vernon Davis. Next, we have Jason Witten of the Dallas Cowboys. Jay Witty is slept on, but if you look at his stats, the numbers add up. Dallas will be on the field a lot in a lot of shootouts outside of Dez Bryant. Jason Witten is definitely Tony Romo's favorite target. You got to love Jay Witty. Next, I have Greg Olsen of the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have a whole new group of wide receivers. Olsen's the only returning target, and last year he led the team in catches and yards. He's definitely a big target in the red zone. I certainly expect for Cam Newton to look his way an awful lot this year. Next, we have Charles Clay of the Miami Dolphins. Clay put on last year, 759 yards, 7 TDs. They didn't really even know what this guy's potential was last year. This year, he'll definitely be a part of the game plan. I love Charles Clay from the Miami Dolphins. Next, I got Jordan Cameron of the Cleveland Browns. Last year, over 900 yards receiving, slacked up on the TDs pretty much the last 10 games of the season. If he can get his touchdowns up, this is definitely a guy who can be a top 5 tight end this year. Next in line, Dennis Pitta, missed majority of last year, certainly a favorite target of Joe Flacco. Gary Kubiak is over there now, very tight end friendly offense. Dennis Pitta, he should put up some nice numbers this year for the Baltimore Ravens. Jordan Reed, only thing with him last year that was a concern was injuries as a rookie. He's coming into his second year. You hope he can improve on his toughness if he can stay healthy. With Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon on the outside for the Washington Redskins, this guy certainly is going to have a lot of room to roam over the middle of the field. Watch out for Jordan Reed, Washington Redskins. Next, Martellus Bennett of the Chicago Bears. Very explosive offense again. Got Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey on the outside. There's certainly room for Bennett to get his money in the middle of the field. Had over 700 yards last year, and that was without Jay Cutler all season. If he can maximize his potential, Martellus Bennett is a nice pickup. Next, you have Jared Cook of the St. Louis Rams. If Sam Bradford can stay healthy, which he has not been able to do, Jared Cook is certainly a guy who can benefit from Bradford's accuracy. Cook has very good speed for a tight end. Can stretch the football field, and I certainly would expect for Sam Bradford to use him an awful lot, especially in play action. Next, you have Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings. The quarterback situation is uncertain there right now. You have Teddy Bridgewater as well as Matt Castle jockeying to get that starting spot. So, I don't know how the chemistry is developing there, but at some point in the season, they should be able to get in sync, and Rudolph will certainly be a good tight end with that offense. They have some pretty nice weapons out in Minnesota if they can get the ball rolling on offense. Now, my last two guys here, Heath Miller of Pittsburgh and Scott Chandler of Buffalo. Not the most talented of players, both getting a little bit older, but again, especially for Heath Miller, probably used a whole lot. He's been with Ben Roethlisberger a long time. E.J. Manuel, second-year quarterback, you still have to rely on your tight end. And so I'm really only putting them there because they're going to be getting the majority of the targets. When we come back in our next segment, we're going to check out some big-time load shares. We have talented tight ends, but it's more than one. We don't know how how it's going to be split up as far as who's getting the football. So we're going to run to a quick commercial break. Make sure to come right back. It's the Firehouse, Blaze 1 Radio, NFL Exporter. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. It's the NFL Exporter live on Blaze 1 Radio. Make sure to check us out each and every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Catch us online, Twitter at Blaze1 Media, at Blaze1 Radio, at NFL Exporter. That's EXPORTER. Let's jump back to our tight ends. Now, I was mentioning there was a timeshare was the word that I was looking for. We have some talented tight ends, but they are not the only starter on their team. There's basically another tight end that they're going to be sharing time with, so that's going to affect their numbers. Now, these are some very good groups. I'm gonna go ahead and name them off, and then I'll really put it out to everybody. Let's really think about how do you sort these situations out. I think this is a very good topic for discussion. Now, out in Philadelphia, you got Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck. Okay, Philly's the high scoring offense, Nick Foles. Which one of those two guys are going to put up the bigger stats? We have to watch in preseason, to see what happens, and then we also have to kind of watch early on in the season as to what happens. So I mean, both of these, whoever the tight end is for Philly, is certainly a good pickup, but we have to watch to see whether it's going to be Ertz or Selleck. Same thing out in Detroit. Look, you got Brandon Pettigrew, Joseph Fourier, and Eric Ebron. Who's going to get the targets here? How's this thing going to be split up? We certainly have to watch out for that. Obviously, with Megatron and Matt Stafford and them boys, Bush and them boys over in Detroit, that whoever the tight end over there, can put up some numbers. Next, we take it out to Indianapolis. Now, this is real interesting. Now, tight end Kobe Fleener has been with, quarterback Andrew Luck ever since they went to Stanford together. But they also drafted the same year this tight end Dwayne Allen from Clemson. Now, he was hurt last year the entire season, so you've seen Luck and Fleener was hooking up a lot. Normally coming into this year, Kobe Fleener, if it was just him, he would certainly be like a top 10, top 12 tight end. But you got Allen figuring in. They're saying that he's really the starter. And that they're not going to sit Fleener totally out. So this is something else you got to watch in the preseason, because with Andrew Luck, obviously same thing. Tight end of benefit. We take it out to Cincinnati. You got Jermaine Gresham and Tyler Eifert. Now, Gresham was supposed to be that guy, but he certainly, he hasn't shown improve. They drafted Eifert out of Notre Dame last year. He looked real good as a rookie. Now they're going to be using both of them. Same thing. Who's going to put up the bigger numbers? We got to watch and see. In Cincinnati, Andy Dalton, AJ Green, these guys put up a lot of yards. All right, and then last, we're looking at Antonio Gates, right? The veteran, should be a future Hall of Famer. He's still racked up 77 catches last year. But then you got this young kid, Ladarius Green, coming on. They're saying he's going to be getting a lot more playing time. So same thing, got to watch and see there. Obviously with Phillip Rivers, somebody, whoever's playing tight end is going to get their money. Phillip, this offense, especially with the success they had last year, they like to throw the football a lot. All right, I'm going to throw a couple other names at you that I think, I guess more than anything, maybe due to their quarterbacks, the teams they're on, these guys might have a little success. Now you got Andrew Quarles out in Green Bay. Now Jermichael Finley looked like he's probably going to hang his career up due to injury. Unfortunately, hope he gets better, gets well. But Quarles is now the starting tight end out there in Green Bay. Now Aaron Rodgers, right? Okay, so if this guy has any type of talent, he could possibly be a good pickup. And then when you look out in Seattle, you got Zach Miller. Now he's not necessarily your biggest name, but Russell Wilson, the quarterback. We know they run a lot of play action. Seattle has the ball a lot, more of a ball control. He can be a guy possibly in the red zone, can make some noise. So just a couple other names. I'm not saying these guys are worth starting or drafting, but we certainly have to take a look and see how things work out because they're on good teams. One more time before we get out of these tight ends. Again, remember, top 10 tight ends: Jimmy Graham, Gronkowski, Julius Thomas, Vernon Davis, Jay Whitty, Greg Olsen, Charles Clay, Jordan Cameron, Dennis Pitta, Jordan Reed from Washington, and Martellus Bennett. And then we gave Cook from St. Louis, and Rudolph from Minnesota a little honorable mention. All right, when we come back for the next segment, we're going to wrap up our tight ends. We're just going to throw out some guys that are some question marks. We got to cover all our bases. Once again, Blaze1Radio, Firehouse, NFL Exporter. We'll be right back. Thanks for returning, everyone. Once again, it's the Firehouse on Blaze1Radio. Let's go ahead and round out our tight ends. Again, these are players I don't expect to be drafted unless you see something in the preseason that catches your attention. Like I said, we're just going to touch lightly on their names. Who knows what the possibilities are? Certainly throughout the course of the season, if anybody spring up for this list, we'll make sure to mention them. So, out in Arizona, you got John Carlson or Rob Hausler. Don't know how that's going to work out. Down in Jacksonville, you got Mercedes Lewis. They probably going to be having to pass the ball a lot. Be interesting to see what's going on out in Kansas City. Alex Smith, he's a dump guy, right? Dink and dunk guy. You got Anthony Fasano. This Michael Riviera kid for Oakland, he might do a little something. Matt Schaub is out there now. We'll see how that turns out. And then the main name that I'm looking at here is Safarian Jenkins, Austin. His first name, is Austin. Last name Safarian Jenkins. He's with Tampa Bay this year. They drafted him. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of upside. They're pretty deep in receivers over there in Tampa Bay, though. Brandon Myers is there, Tim Wright from last year. So I don't know how that situation can work out. That could be, again, whoever maybe become the starter out of that batch. Tampa Bay probably is going to throw the ball a lot this year. And then the interesting guy, obviously, there's no way he can fill his shoes. Right out in the A, down in the dirty. Tony Gonzalez was definitely a big part of this Atlanta offense the past couple years. What he did in the middle of the field, the red zone, team leader, professional. He's a big time player. He retired. So this guy here, Levine Tuilulo, please excuse me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but he's expected to step in that tight end. We know Atlanta likes to throw the football a lot, so hey, can he do anything? All right, that's it for our tight ends. When we come back, we're going to get it in with the defenses and special teams. Once again, Firehouse, Blaze1Radio. We'll be right back. Yes, indeed. It's Blaze1Radio and NFLExporter, and you're now tuned into the Firehouse. Now we're going to go ahead and get into our defenses. Coming in top defense this year, we got to go with the Seattle Seahawks. And remember, this is defense special teams, excuse me. Got to go with the Seattle Seahawks. Last year had the top defense in the league. They pretty much bringing back everybody. They minus cornerback Brandon Browner and defensive end, excuse me, Chris Clemens. Everybody else is pretty much a stick. They have, nothing but a couple guys to fill in there. And they got Percy Harvin running them punts and kicks back. So got to go with Seattle, top defense. Next in line, it's pretty much I'm looking out in that AFC West, man. And, the Niners, now they are going to be minus Navarro Bowman and Aldon Smith for some time. Definitely got some work to do on them cornerbacks. So, they could slide. I think that's a good thing to look at in the preseason and early parts of the season, looking at how the Niners defense is looking. But I think giving them from what they've done over the past years, you can give them that reputation. They can get a pass until we see otherwise. Definitely want San Fran D. The Rams defense they put on last year, secondary a little bit shaky. Their front seven is nice though. Robert Quinn led the league in sacks last year. Ogletree is out there. Rams definitely got a stingy D. Tavon Austin is running their punts and kicks backs. He's dangerous. Take it out to Arizona. Darnell Dockett. My man Calais Campbell, they got the good front line. Linebackers kind of questionable. I like the corners though. Got Patrick Peterson out there, and then they brought over Antonio Cromartie, so I like potentially them being some lockdown corners and holding it down. And then you got what's the name too? Peterson be running them punts, kickoffs back every now and then. He's explosive, so them four defenses in the AFC West definitely legit. In there as well, and these are not ranked in any particular order. You know what I'm saying? I'm really just giving like the top defenses coming in. You can't really go wrong with any of them as far as the order that we're going in. Certainly teams like Green Bay, New England, Chicago certainly should be right up there amongst the league leaders. I would definitely say that those were the top 7 defenses coming in thus far. Seattle, San Fran, Rams, Arizona, Green Bay, New England, Chicago. For sure, you grab one of those defenses, you should be pretty good, out looking throughout the season. Next, them teams on the AFC North is grimy too. Obviously you have to watch for matchups. Sometimes, if you're playing against Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, you might want to think about putting a different defense in. But for the most part, solid. You got to factor in it's the game at home and really just peep the elements. But for fantasy football, defense special teams is really just about how many sacks, fumbles, interceptions, running the punt back, running the kick back, things like that your points add up. So, definitely teams. You got Jacoby Jones, he's out there with the Ravens. In Pittsburgh, they're well known for forcing turnovers, might catch a punt return every now and then from Antonio Brown. And so, the Bengals and then the Browns. The Browns got an underrated defense. I think it's a little bit more harder on them because they don't have a good offense, but they got a pretty stingy defense over there. So, you got to keep your eyes on them. Denver, without question, they brought over DeMarcus Ware this year. If him and Von Miller can get it on the same page, Denver should definitely get, turnovers. Obviously, teams a lot of times get caught trying to play catch up. So certainly opportunities lie in there. And then they got Trenton Holiday running back punts and kickoffs. He ran back about 3 or 4 last year. So Denver always good to have. San Diego is another good defense to have. Certainly like some of the players that they have. They brought over Brandon Flowers. Eric Weddle is always making plays. If they can get Corey Legent and Ingram playing at a high level, I think this defense will be even better than it was last year. It certainly showed flashes. They went through some injuries, but San Diego's a nice little defense to have on the low. Kansas City, too. Obviously, you have Tamba Ali, Justin Houston. They bring a lot of noise off the edge. Derek Johnson, he's a playmaker. And then we already seen DeAnthony Thomas, the rookie from Oregon. He ran a punt back 80 yards in the first preseason game. So obviously, he's going to be a big-time threat on special teams. So Kansas City, especially if they can do anything where they did last year, I don't think they're going to do that. That's why I have them rated, a little bit lower. Like I said, obviously you have KC's defense. You can't go wrong, given what they did last year. But I don't think they're going to have that many turnovers as they had last year. Last year, that was a big time aberration for that Chiefs team. Some other teams to take a look at, New Orleans on the low. I like what Rob Ryan has got going. Second year there. They brought over Jarius Byrd. He's got some playmakers. Now he's got Cameron at defensive end. He's stepping his game up. Curtis Lofton is in that middle, and then also Vicario, the rookie they picked up last year from Texas, brought over Champ Bailey. Champ obviously doesn't have the speed he used to have, but still a savvy player, pretty much got all the other tools. So I think New Orleans defense, special teams, and then the Brandon Cooks kid, the rookie, he might get involved in the kick or punt return. So I like what New Orleans D can do, especially at home. They always put up a lot of production at home. Carolina is another team, definitely, that last year was a big-time problem. You got Greg Hardy and Charles Johnson coming off them edges. Luke Kelce, pretty much considered the best inside linebacker in the NFL today. It's really on their secondary. That front seven is definitely stout. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Carolina's defense is going to have a lot of pressure on them this year, but it might not be too uncommon to them, All right, next you have the Detroit Lions, at least in home games. Ndamukong Suh, Nick Fairley, DeAndre Levy, Steve Tullett. Those guys, they definitely bring it. Losing Louis Delmas to free agency, that might hurt some. He was pretty much the heart and soul of that defense on the back end. So I don't know what type of effect that may have. But Detroit defense certainly is aggressive when they're at home. Next, you have Tampa Bay. I like what they have on defense. They got a pretty stingy guys up front with Gerald McCoy and Chris Claiborne. They brought over Michael Johnson from Cincinnati. He's a real nice pass rusher. You got Levante David at linebacker. And then the secondary is looking pretty good. I like Deshaun Goldson and Mark Barron, if they can get on the same page over the top. So Tampa Bay's a defense that's just sneaky as far as getting them points for you. Next, we're going to take it out to the AFC East. The Jets, Miami, Buffalo, all real stingy defenses. Jets got a nasty front seven. Secondary is shaky, so you might want to maybe possibly rate them last, but it's not too far off. Buffalo secondary is looking a little shaky as well. You like their front end guys too. Like I said, for Buffalo with Mario Williams, Marcel Darius. Kiko Alonso's a big loss for them. He's gone for the year. He was a stud last year on defense, but they still got Kyle Williams. Bringing over Brandon Spikes from New England, that was a good move. So still some tough guys up there. And then for the Jets, obviously Defensive Rookie of the Year, Sheldon Richardson, Muhammad Wilkerson. You still got Calvin Pace, David Harris. So those teams have good front sevens. I would say the most balanced defense is Miami. So we probably rate them at the highest out of those teams because on their corners they have Brent Grimes and Cortland Finnegan. I like that little tandem right there. Cameron Wake bringing the pressure up front. Donnell Ellerbe on the second level. So those are some good teams. And then now when we kind of getting down to, I would say our lower tier, of teams, probably going to end up the season somewhere on a free agent wire. Oakland, even though I think Oakland can be real underrated this year. They brought over Lamar Woodley, Justin Tuck. They drafted Khalil Mack from Buffalo. He was a stud. They could potentially make some noise if their secondary can hold up. Out in Houston, with J.J. Wyatt, Clowney, I think he's going to come around at some point this year. Still got Joseph and Kareem Jackson on at the cornerbacks, Brian Kushner. So, I certainly think Houston can get back to getting some turnovers this year. Philadelphia, same thing. They're going to be a high scoring team. So I think that defense is going to be real opportunistic. Still got Trent Cole and Connor Barwin getting after the quarterback. Fletcher Cox up front. The secondary, I like they brought over Michael Jenkins from the Saints. You have the other safety, Nate Allen. And so I really like what the Philadelphia Eagles defense is looking like as far as getting turnovers possibly. And they also brought over Darren Sproles, so he'll help out a lot as far as running back punts and kicks again. Tennessee, they got a pretty tough defense. Washington, that's certainly a strong possibility there, depending on how their secondary holds up. They brought over Ryan Clark from the Pittsburgh Steelers. D'Angelo Hall, he gets a couple pick sixes a year. If Arakpo and Kerrigan can get some pressure, they brought in Jason Hatcher from Dallas, so possibly Washington. We expect them, to be winning this year. Also now getting into possibly Indy every now and then. When Robert Mathis comes back, that helps their defense out a lot. You have Minnesota, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Dallas, and the Giants. Really shouldn't expect too much from those defenses at all. All right, that wraps up our defenses. When we come back, we're going to move it over to the kickers. It's the Firehouse, Blaze1Radio. Stay tuned. Thank you everyone for returning. Once again, you tuned in to Blaze1Radio. I'm the host, the NFLExporter. We're having a great show thus far. We're rounding out our fantasy football rankings. We're getting to our very last category, which is the kickers. Pretty much in fantasy football, when you're looking at kickers, we want to go with the teams who score the most points. That's who's going to get the most field goals, the most extra points. But it's also very tricky when it comes to the kickers, because you have some teams who may score a whole lot of touchdowns. You get stuck with a bunch of extra points. You may have another team that gets close to a touchdown but has to settle for a field goal. We obviously want the player who's going to get the more field goals, the higher points. So this is very tricky, but you got to go once again with the odds. So pretty much the highest scoring teams in the league, you already know. In Denver, you got Prater, their kicker. Gostkowski, the kicker for New England. Nick Novak, he's a good pickup from San Diego. And Adam Vinatieri out in Indianapolis. Shane Graham, he should be an excellent pickup. He's kicking this year for New Orleans. Robbie Gould, he's always steady out in Chicago. Then you have Nick Freese out in Detroit. Watch out for him. Detroit has a high scoring offense. He's an underrated guy. Matt Crosby always has opportunities. He's been a little shaky the past couple years. I've been kind of shunning him a little bit, but if he can get on course, Green Bay is going to put up a lot of points. Alex Henry for Philly. We know Philly is going to score a lot of points this year. Then you have Kyle Forbath from the Washington Redskins. We definitely are expecting Robert Griffith and these boys to put some points on the board. Then you have Phil Dawson. I really like him out in San Francisco. Probably another excellent pickup. I definitely expect the 49ers offense to pick the pace up and score a lot more points this year. And then you have Steven Hauschka out in Seattle. You already know Seattle's defense is real opportunistic. They had the ball a lot. Russell Wilson and boys move the ball. He was a top field goal kicker from last year. I expect him to be on his grind again. Some other guys, teams not so well, but they got the booming legs. We talking about Blair Walsh out in Minnesota. He's good from like 50, 55 yards, so opportunity's always there for him. You got Greg Zuerlein out in St. Louis, same thing, 50, 53 yards. He's pretty much money. And then, of course, Sebastian Janikowski out in the Bay. He's good from like 55, 60. So those are certainly some guys that may not be on the highest scoring teams in the league, but they got legs to kick it the distance, so you got to throw their name in there. Alright, we're going to run to a quick commercial break. NFLExporter. When we come back, we're going to talk about our second tier of kickers. Blaze1Radio. Welcome back, NFLExporter, live on Blaze1Radio. You're now tuned into the Firehouse. Let's go ahead and round out our kickers. We just went over the top guys. Now we're gonna go over guys that, like I said, not the highest scoring teams, but that's not necessarily a negative. If they're on a team who can get in the field goal position and their kicker for the team can kick a lot of field goals, then that's the kicker we want to go with. So you got Ryan Suckup from Kansas City. We expect them to kick a lot of field goals. Justin Tucker, Baltimore. Mike Nugent out in Cincinnati. You got Sean Sweesom from Pittsburgh. Graham Gano in Carolina. Connor Barth from Tampa Bay. Matt Bryan out in Atlanta. You have Jay Feely out in Arizona. Dan Bailey out in Dallas. He always finds himself with a lot of points. And I would say rounding it out here, you have Caleb Sturgis from Miami. Dan Carpenter from Buffalo. Billy Cunda from Cleveland. Josh Scobie from Jacksonville. Josh Brown from the Giants. Brett Kern from Tennessee. Randy Bullock with Houston. And Nick Folk for the Jets. I mean, those teams that we just went through right there, a lot of field goals. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get a lot of these field goals in the same game, but a lot of those teams we just went through, we look at some of the quarterbacks there. Look at this list. Who we got? You have Josh McCown out in Tampa Bay. We have a rookie quarterback. Really, whoever the quarterback is going to be in Minnesota this year, they're going to be pretty good at best, until we see otherwise. So a lot of field goals there. Out in St. Louis, they seem to have a lot of trouble making third down conversions. So definitely Zerline. It's just these teams, they may not get into field goal position a lot, but when they do, get in the red zone or scoring opportunity, a lot of times that's likely what happens. So I'm gonna tell you, with fantasy football, this is actually one area, and even the defenses, to keep it 100 with you, you could switch up, because from week to week things change. And so, if you end up in a situation, or I've used that draft strategy in the past, I may not, I may wait till last to get my defense and my kicker, because I would just switch them out based on matchup on a week-to-week basis. I just flip my kicker. Whatever kicker I seen, I knew it should be a situation where it's going to get a lot of points. And if I seen the defense, playing against a team that had a backup quarterback, or a team that was struggling, I run with it there. So you definitely have some flexibility when it comes to that. But if you want a top defense, like we said, Seattle, San Fran, the Rams, Arizona, Green Bay, New England, Chicago, Denver, San Diego, Kansas City, New Orleans. If you wanted a top kicker, like we said, Prater from Denver, Kelsey from New England, Vinatieri from Indianapolis, Shane Graham, New Orleans. You get my point, right? You hear the quarterbacks, you know how much points these teams put up. So we're going to leave it like that. And then just to cap it out, run back them tight ends again, in case you're just tuning in, or, didn't get a chance to get this down. You got Jimmy Graham, Gronkowski, Julius Thomas, Denver, Vernon Davis from 49ers, and Jason Witten, Dallas. Your top 5 tight ends. All right, NFL Exporter, we're going to run a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to wrap the show up. We're just going to talk about some interesting fantasy football topics as we head into week 2 of the preseason. NFL Exporter, Blaze1Radio. Don't touch that dial. Alright everybody, thanks for coming back. It's the NFL Exporter live on Blaze1Radio. Once again, make sure to check us each and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Right now, we in preseason mode, so we just, going through everything, the AFC, the NFC, fantasy football, all positions, getting geared up and ready. When the season kick off, we want to make sure we was, fully prepared, and more than anything, make sure that the NFL Exporter is going to check out. If make sure my word is bond. That's certainly, I'm quite sure, what the people out there want. Make sure you get somebody who's going to give you the right insight and guidance and really drop the jewels on you, because we know in a lot of these television shows and so on and so forth, not giving you the full scope of things, and we certainly don't want to have anybody's vision distorted, so we're going to make sure that we cover all bases and get everything lined up in order here, to make sure that you're getting a quality show and the type of show that you're accustomed to seeing. I'm quite sure on like ESPN and NFL Network, some of them other shows, you can come over to Blaze1Radio and then get that same quality. So we just, like I said, it's our second show. We could tell we're gonna have a real big season here. We thank all our fans and listeners just for tuning in to Blaze1Radio as a whole team. And it's great to bring this aspect to the show, and I know we're gonna have a great season. So some interesting fantasy topics coming in that we're looking at. Arian Foster, the running back for the Texans. Now, a couple years ago, he was one of the top running backs in the NFL, and I'm not taking that away from him now, but he's been battling some serious injuries. Most notably, he had the back surgery last year. He really didn't play a lot. Now this season, in the preseason thus far, he has missed a lot of time with a hamstring and a calf injury, and they're wondering, is it due to the back injury, which is supposed to be healed, but you're really wondering, can this guy get back to form? I mean, prior to the injuries, Arian Foster was pretty much the top player coming off fantasy football boards. He was going pretty much number one, for sure, top 5 pick. And so you really wonder, is he going to get back to form? Their head coach, Gary Kubiak, he left to Baltimore. In Houston, they were running that zone blocking scheme. That was certainly a blocking scheme when Terrell Davis was running in Denver. Clinton Portis had some success with it when he was with the Redskins. It's certainly a blocking scheme that you see a lot of guys excel in, and so I'm not sure. We have to see who the offensive coordinator is over in Houston, but keep your eyes on Arian Foster. I think he's definitely a boom or bust guy this year. He's either going to, get you 1,300 yards and 14 to 15 TDs, or, injuries possibly, just not being 100%. Could possibly, hinder this guy. You certainly don't want to pick him in the first round, and he comes out with 800 yards and 5 TDs. So I think that's something that's certainly worth keeping an eye on. Doug Martin, running back in Tampa Bay, certainly another topic for discussion. Came out rookie year, over 1,300 rushing, double digits in TDs. He actually went to the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Last year, he misses pretty much the whole season. The 6 games he played, 1 touchdown. And so, what do we expect from him? We certainly got to watch him in the preseason. I know a lot of people, he slid big time. He was a first round pick last year. You got Marshawn Lynch. Now, look, we're out in Seattle. Now, we know that Lynch held out a couple days. Money, obviously, he's going to come back. He's going to play. No player is going to lose that type of money. Plus, he loves the game. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays this season, right? I mean, is this guy going to ultimately play for a new contract for another team, or is he going to try to preserve himself and maybe not give an all-out effort because he did not get paid this year with some of the other Seahawks? It doesn't look like they have Lynch in their long-term plans. So obviously Marshawn Lynch is another guy who's a top 5 running back, has averaged over 1,300 the last 3 years. But if he's unhappy, if he's not motivated, certainly don't want to waste a top first-round pick on him. Okay, next we have Mark Ingram. I think this is real interesting out in New Orleans. Now, the Saints a couple years ago actually moved up in the draft to pick Ingram. Yet they have not featured him yet. He's always had 2 or 3 other running backs, Pierre Thomas and now Darren Sproles is in Philly, but he had those 2 in front of him. He was kind of not getting the bulk of the carries. Well, he looked good the end of last year. Looked good in the playoffs against Philly, and then he looked excellent in his first preseason game. So I'm wondering, at some point, could he emerge as the full-time starter, or is Pierre Thomas always going to get enough time to continue to limit Ingram's damage? I will say, though, if Ingram could end up in a good situation if they make him their goal line running back. because I think he has more power than Thomas. And even if he's getting you 60, 70 yards on the ground, if he can get that touchdown, obviously New Orleans moves the ball. Then Mark Ingram is a player that's notable, worth watching. Could maybe be like an excellent flex player for you this year. All right, Trent Richardson, another guy, rookie year, over 900, 12 TDs. Last year, we still don't know why. I mean, you come out as a rookie, a third pick overall in the draft, and have a pretty successful year. The next year, the team is letting you go within the first 5 games. And so I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can call into the show or let us let me know. Maybe I have to Google that when we get offline. I'm not sure what happened there in Cleveland, but I think last year we can give him the benefit of the doubt. He got traded to the Colts in about the 4th or 5th game, and he couldn't learn the playbook and everything and so on and so forth that fast. But he's another guy. Look, like I said, third pick overall, first round. Came out his rookie season and had 950 rushing yards, 12 TDs. Last year, MIA. So, I certainly think that's something that we have to consider. He's in Indy now. Vic Ballard, the 3rd string, or maybe like fighting for the 2nd string running back with Ahmad Bradshaw. He's gone for the year, so now it's pretty much down to just Trent Richardson and Ahmad. Ahmad one time, he's going to be pressing him, so be interesting to see what Trent Richardson does this year in Indianapolis. Steven Jackson, down in Atlanta. He's been a very productive player in his career. Injuries, same thing, unfortunately, kind of have held him back. With Steven Jackson down in Atlanta, very explosive offense, same thing. He should be getting the goal line carries. If this guy can stay healthy, another great flex play. Possibly a number 2 running back, but you just have reservations about Jackson. I mean, it just doesn't seem like he makes it through a full 16-game schedule. So I don't know. Y'all, same thing. Y'all can let me know out there. What's your thoughts on Steven Jackson? When he's in the lineup, when he's healthy, I don't mind Steven. He can definitely still, to me, get you 70 to 100 all-purpose yards. A TD. He can get you some good points, but like I said, it's kind of rare. He just finds his way on the sideline. Another guy, running back, Chris Johnson, ran for 6 straight years over 1,000 yards out in Tennessee. Obviously got the nickname CJ2K for running for over 2,000 yards in a season. Since that time, obviously, teams have paid him a whole lot more attention, and he hasn't topped 1,200 yards, over 1,200 yards in the past 3 years. But he's in New York now with the Jets. They're going to run the ball a lot. They have a couple good offensive linemen. I like Nick Mangold, DeBricochet, Ferguson. Could he come through and be a threat this year for your fantasy team? I kind of got him going in that 4th, 5th, 6th round, depending on how the board is moving and how teams are being built. But Chris Johnson is another guy to watch here. They got a couple decent backs behind him. Chris Ivory runs hard. They still have Bilal Powell. I think they want to make Chris Johnson the main back, but I did see, and it's only one game, we don't want to base it off that, but it's worth monitoring. I did see the Jets mixing up their carries quite a bit. All right, next we have Percy Harvin. We all know Percy is definitely a big-time talent. Everybody will tell you that. Injuries plague this guy as well. I think that is certainly holding his fantasy value back right now. There's no question what Percy Harvin can do on the football field. No question at all. If you knew this guy was going to be healthy, he's a top 3. He's a top 3. The first 3 rounds, he's a pick without question. But those red flags, and so he's probably same thing, 5th, 6th round. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Golden Tate left. I don't see any reason why Harvin shouldn't be the leading receiver there. Doug Baldwin is still there. He's been with the Seahawks the longest. Jermaine Kearse, he's a good 3rd-year player, but I mean, hey, they're paying Percy Harvin a big contract. I would expect for him to be a big part of their offense. If he can stay healthy, I think this could be a banner year for Mr. Harvin. Interesting what you're going to do as far as drafting him or not. All right, Colin Kaepernick, QB, San Francisco 49ers. I think it's a big year for Cap out there. When I'm looking at last year, he was able to get 3,200 passing, 21 TDs. only 9 interceptions, got you another 524 yards on the ground, 4 rushing TDs. That was just with Vernon Davis and Anquan Bolden. Now they got Crabtree back healthy, and they went out and grabbed Stevie Johnson from the Bills. And the 49ers defense, like I said, I think it's going to take them a second to get it together. So, it could lead to even more field opportunities for Kaepernick. But I think this offense is tooled up. If these guys can get on the same page, this is going to be an explosive offense this year. Colin Kaepernick should be a nice pickup for your fantasy team this year. What's up with my man Larry Fitzgerald out in Arizona? Last year was the first time in over 5 years that Fitzgerald did not lead the team in receiving yards. He did just fall a couple yards short of 1,000, but Michael Floyd, the second-year guy for Notre Dame, he's actually in his third year now. He took over the team lead in receiving yards. So, be interesting to see if Fitzgerald can get back over 1,000. You would think that it would be the case. Carson Palmer's his quarterback. They're both veterans. I know they work out in the off season. I think this could be a big year for Larry. You can land Larry in later rounds too. I think this is a sleeper year to grab Fitzgerald. I think that he can put up some big numbers, and you're gonna be able to grab him a little bit later on. It's rough in that NFC West though. You gotta watch that 6 games against the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. That's tough. That's tough right there. But I think this could be a real good year for Larry Fitzgerald. We spoke on him earlier since we was on tight ends. Rob Gronkowski. Look, same thing. There's no question. When this guy's healthy, you better believe he's on my team. But the injuries have added up. It just seems like you're holding your breath with this guy now. And so if you're picking him up this year, you certainly want to have a reliable backup. It's just the injuries. I'm going to tell you, when you see a player continuously get injured, it just makes you hesitant to pull the trigger on him. You get stuck in that situation where if you don't get him, then, somebody else has him. You're like, man, you wish you would have got him. But if you get him, and this guy is going through these things, then you're kicking yourself. So certainly Gronkowski, look, I'm not going to front. I'll grab him this year. I'll be watching. We all need to watch and see what he looks like in the preseason. But if he's available on the board, and you got the green light, he's healthy, they're saying this year he's good to go, then I'm really looking forward to seeing Rob Gronkowski back on the field. Dude is a big-time talent. All right, another guy, Marcus Colston, New Orleans Saints. It just feels like he doesn't maximize the potential. I don't know about you guys, but it just seems like he does not maximize the potential. He was Drew Brees' top target for 1 year. Ran into some small injuries here and there, but Brees is a guy who likes to spread the ball around, and I guess when Jimmy Graham got on the squad, that became Brees' favorite target. But this year, Colston, I don't see any excuse why he could be another guy who late round could be an excellent pickup for your team, because he's the longest tenured receiver on this team, period, even beyond Graham. Now, they lost Darren Sproles. He was catching 77 balls a year. They lost Lance Moore. They lost Devery Henderson. The starting wide receivers right now are Colston and this second-year player, Kenny Stills. I don't see why, outside of Graham, and then Brandon Cooks, the rookie from Oregon State, he looks like he's going to be a big part. But Marcus Colston, I just feel like he's got to find a way to get back to 80 catches, 1,200, something 9 yards and double-digit TDs. I don't see why that can't be the case for him, but we'll see. All right, quick commercial break. NFLExporter, Blaze1Radio. We'll be right back in a moment. Stay tuned. Yes, one more time, give it up for Blaze1Radio and the Firehouse each and every Thursday. You know where to catch us. Alright, some interesting topics just to round out a great show here tonight. Obviously, got to thank the big homie G Mills, got to thank the whole Blaze1Radio, Blaze1 Media Movement, Underworld, got to shout out Atlanta, New York, worldwide, you know what it is. Cam Newton, definitely big season for him. Look, he's got a brand. He's got all new wide receivers. All new wide receivers. Steve Smith, no longer in Carolina. All new wide receivers. The only returning players is tight end, Greg Olsen. Let's be honest. The great quarterbacks in the NFL, they make the receivers. If you look at who Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, pretty much right now, right? Those are the top 4 quarterbacks we all consider. If you look at the wide receivers they've played with over the years, certainly been a couple good ones. Don't get me wrong. Marvin Harrison was definitely a beast for Peyton Manning in Indy. There's no question that Randy Moss was not. Randy Moss was a terror. Tom Brady set the NFL record at that time for passing touchdowns with Randy Moss. And so, they certainly had some top-tier guys. But overall, if you look at the players that these guys have played with, they've really been nobodies. Guys like Wes Welker, heck, look, Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, look, Marcus Colston, Robert Meacham, Devery Henderson, Lance Moore, heck, even Jimmy Graham, right? I mean, if Jimmy Graham wasn't on Rob Gronkowski, if they were on one of these other quarterbacks, other teams that didn't have a good quarterback, we don't know if they'd be doing this. It's certainly the quarterback who's making Wes Welker. He's another guy. The quarterbacks are making these receivers, pretty much by their pinpoint accuracy. I mean, let's face it, these guys are dropping back, and when these guys are open, they're putting it on them. I think this is a big year for Cam Newton as a quarterback. We know he can run the ball. He's certainly made improvements passing the football. And look, I'm not one of those guys who is going to try to stick Cam in any type of box. If he's not a pocket passer, then I'm not going to go on about him not being a pocket passer and trying to compare him to Peyton Manning and these other guys. I think if he stays in his lane, really they just got to come up with some better talent for Cam, number one. I don't understand that organization having a talent like him and not ever going out. I mean, they drafted Kelvin Benjamin this year, but not going out and really getting a big time receiver for him. But with the weapons they have, which to me are not too impressive, it's going to be interesting to see how he can move the football through the air this year. I do want to see how accurate he can be with the football. I would say thus far he's been a bit inconsistent. But again, when I look at, like I said, I factor in talent, who he's got out there. Can't necessarily say all his fault. Running game has really slacked off kind of year after year too. So I think it's a big year for Cam Newton out in Carolina. They won a division last year. Let's see what Superman has to offer. RG3, another guy. Look, great rookie season. Unfortunate injuries. Last year was trying to round it back into form. This year he's fully tooled up. New head coach. This head coach was out in Cincinnati. We've seen the type of offense Cincinnati was bringing to the table the last couple years. Robert Griffith III, if he's back healthy, there's no excuse that this Redskins offense should not flow this year. I really, Deshaun Jackson and Garcon at receiver, got the nice tight end Jordan Reed, Alfred Morris back there. He's shown he's capable of running for over 1,300 a year. I'm really excited to see Robert Griffith III back on the field. If this guy's healthy, this could be a big year for the Redskins offense. Next, Eli Manning. Have we seen the last of Eli Manning? Well, really, I guess can Eli Manning have consecutive good seasons again? Let's maybe look at it that way, because when you look at Manning's career, to be totally honest, if it wasn't for the 2 Super Bowl wins that the Giants had with him at quarterback, and certainly in those playoffs, the majority of those years, and in the Super Bowl, Eli Manning certainly played well. But if you look at his other numbers, aside of from maybe those 2 seasons, though, he's put up a couple good, but he's always been a high turnover guy. 3 times in his career over 20 or more interceptions. Another 2 times, we see in 1917, he's always been a high turnover guy. And so now they've got a brand new offense. He's got, last year that offense struggled mightily. The ceiling caved in on this team. they're still picking up the pieces out there, honestly, for the Giants. A couple guys left that defense. That offense, though, with Eli, that's what we're speaking on here. He's only got Victor Cruz left. The other receivers are young. They're new. Randall's in maybe his third or fourth year. Jernigan his second year. They drafted Odell Beckham. He's been unable to play thus far with a hamstring injury in the preseason. He's a rookie. Got a brand new running back. So I'm wondering what type of year is Eli Manning going to have, and can we possibly, is it possible for Eli Manning again to maybe throw for 4,000 yards and maybe 25 touchdowns in single digits or low, maybe 10, 11 interceptions? Is that possible, or has these Super Bowl rings possibly really helped Eli Manning's career? That's just a very good question for us to consider. Tavon Austin out in St. Louis last year, high draft pick, brought in to help boost that Rams offense. Took him a while to make his way around. He really took him a while to learn his way around the NFL last year. Came on strong at the end of last season, say about the last 6 games. He kind of found his rhythm, his groove. Starting quarterback Sam Bradford's going to be back. When Danny Amendola was in St. Louis, he was in a slot, and he really excelled. Sam Bradford would hook up with him a lot when he wasn't injured. And so if Tavon Austin is going to be in that slot, and he's a whole lot faster and quicker than Danny Amendola was or ever will be, what type of results can we expect from him? Could he possibly, have a big year? The huge expectations upon Tavon Austin. I'm excited to see what he can do this year. It seemed like the Rams kind of got it overall. If we can't get him in the passing game, because he is a smaller guy, so sometimes not being able to get off the line in routes, and again, he was a rookie. We'll certainly give him the benefit of the doubt, but here's a guy, if he can put it all together, certainly he's got some of the most top end speed I've seen in the NFL. I mean, if this guy gets in the open field, you don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tavon Austin does for the Rams this year. Next, we have Terrence West. Now, West is a rookie for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns also went out and signed running back Ben Tate from Houston in free agency. Now, I'm not too sold myself on Tate. I'm not sure about you guys. I think that he kind of benefited more or less from the Texans had a very good a good offensive line. Again, Gary Kubiak was running that zone blocking scheme out there. He was running behind Arian Foster. I think that was more of the case. Coming over to Cleveland, and running back is a very difficult position to transition over to a new team in, unless you're like a stud, an Adrian Peterson or a LaShawn McCoy, someone like that. And so I think this Terrence West kid has a chance to beat out Tate to be the starting running back out in Cleveland. For what I've seen the first preseason game between Cleveland and Detroit, West looked like the better running back to me. Now it is just one game. I don't know what the game plan is, but he just seems to have a little bit more hop and explosion into his steps. So, we'll come back and see. I think this Terrence West kid is going to find himself on the field running back for the Cleveland Browns. Reggie Wayne, Indianapolis Colts. We know Wayne was certainly doing it at a high level last year. When he went down with an injury, had to miss the whole second half of the season. He's back. We certainly want to see if he's healthy. If so, can Reggie Wayne continue to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL? I'm certainly anxious to see. I don't see any reason why he won't be a target for Andrew Luck. They did bring over Hakeem Nicks. I think that it'll be a little bit more spread out, but overall, Reggie Wayne is certainly a guy that Andrew Luck has rapport with, and Luck has respect for him. And so it's going to be interesting to see if Reggie Wayne can get back to form, and Willie, let's look at that. Look, prior to Nicks coming over, Wayne was definitely you probably say 85 catch, 1,100 yard, 8-9 TD guy, right? Now that they have Nicks over there, and also T.Y. Hilton has really stepped up his game every single year. Let's see what Reggie Wayne, let's see what his numbers look like this year. Cordell Patterson out in Minnesota. big time talk about this kid. Really put on at the tail of last season. He's the starting wide receiver. He's in the second year out of University of Tennessee. He's out in Minnesota. We're hearing nothing but good things about this kid that they're saying could become great things. Now, I'm wondering with a shaky quarterback situation how this thing is going to play out and look. Because if the quarterback play isn't steady, it could hinder his numbers. But if he can get his hands on the ball enough, Cordell Patterson is certainly a player that we are being told right now will be worth watching this year. So if he's not on your radar already, Cordell Patterson, wide receiver from Minnesota Vikings. Let's see when we get to week 4 or 5 what the word on the street is about him. Is he backing up the reputation that he's currently building for himself in the preseason? And then to round it out, Rashad Jennings of the New York Giants. One thing's for certain about him, he's going to get an awful lot of touches this year. We've already seen in 2 preseason games he scored 1 touchdown, but he's going to be getting a lot of touches this year. The Giants, this offense seems to be very watered down, and the running back seems to be a big part of it. Even though they do have backup running back Andre Williams, who we'll talk about in another show, who could be a nice play for you later on in the year, but Rashad Jennings is certainly going to be in a feature role in New York, and that's what they brought him in for. Now here's a question. He's the perfect candidate that you want for your fantasy football team because he's going to get a lot of touches. However, this Giants team might not be so good this year, and if that offense struggles like it did last year, it's going to hurt his numbers. And so my question to you out there is Rashad Jennings of the New York Giants, and I know it's early, so maybe we'll do this by the time the regular season rolls around, but Rashad Jennings of the New York Giants, with all the touches he's going to get this year, with all the targets, is he going to put up the fantasy numbers, or is this New York offense going to struggle and his performance get glued to that? All right, that'll wrap up another show. Once again, we thank everybody. Blaze1Radio, NFLExporter. Make sure to catch us next week, same time, 7 p.m., same station, Blaze1Radio, the Firehouse.